The following is a presentation of the BellyUpSports Media Network.
The ball sends it over to Edward Robles. Go! Insert name FC! Let's go! Insert name FC! All right, guys, what is up? It is Hector Flores, host of the Insert Name FC podcast, a member of the BellyUpSports Media Network. You can find us on all things podcasting, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast fix from. We'll find us there at Insert Name FC. We also offer a full video version of this podcast, which is available on the BellyUpSports YouTube channel. So make sure you guys go like the full episode and also subscribe to the BellyUps YouTube channel as we are trying to grow that channel. And you'll probably see a lot of other podcasts also be featured on there over there at BellyUps YouTube channel. Now, we do have a YouTube channel as well, Insert Name FC. Check us out as well. You'll find you'll basically see these episodes but broken down into shorter bits. So if you guys maybe don't have the time to listen to a hour and a half plus episode in one sitting, well, there's that option for you as well. So that's an option. And and also follow us on social media on Instagram and the X at Insert Name FC. We're also available on Facebook at Insert Name FC as well. And we do have a LinkedIn. So if you guys want to check out the LinkedIn, just check it out. It's not really much. It's just LinkedIn. I don't know what else to tell you. But yeah, man, episode 208, and this episode is I think it's going to be a solid episode. I mean, obviously, we do have headlines. This seems to have been the week for people to just be outlandish, and you'll hear about it in the headlines. I'll also share my thoughts on the whole Houston Dynamo Miami game. Yeah, that happened. Obviously, MLS Onside episode 2 review with Jose Tejas is also going to be much a thing. It's going to be a really cool episode. It is going to feature one of the most interesting rivalry games in MLS, which is the Hell is Real derby between FC Cincinnati and the Columbus Crew, both from the state of Ohio. So I think a really interesting episode, and hopefully you guys like to hear what me and Jose have thoughts on. Do players of the week, give you guys some games to look forward to this weekend. Also a huge weekend as well as far as like American soccer, because NWSL is kicking up with the Challenge Cup, and the USL, which, I mean, if you guys remember me and Kelsey discussing what the ambition that USL has, well, if you guys want to see Pro Rel in the US, go support USL and make sure that they are the more enjoyable product in America. So there's that. Give you guys some games to watch, and then wrap the show up in a pretty little bow for you guys. So also, the reason why I was like kind of not sure how this episode is going to turn out is mainly because this past weekend I had to go to a wedding. I was actually out of town, so I wasn't able to record on Sunday because I had to attend a wedding, which was really fun. It was somebody that I knew from my time in the Marine Corps, so it was really cool to be able to catch up with some people. You know, your bond. Yeah, I'll wrap the show up with that thoughts. But yeah, so I went to a wedding. Wedding was fun, but obviously now it's Monday, and now I'm trying to get everything caught up and make sure that you guys get an episode on Thursday. So if on Thursday there is an episode of Insert Name FC, that means I did my job. So win for me if that happens, and give me a little high five or like this, so I feel appreciated for all the scourging that I have to do for this episode. But yeah, man, really exciting episode. So headlines, people talking. That's all I gotta say about that. People talking this episode. MLS Onside episode 2 recap, players of the week, games to watch, and yeah, that should be episode 208. So Guys, sit back, relax. We'll take a break and then we'll go right into headlines. Let me tell you guys about BellyUpSports. BellyUpSports is the internet sports bar. Go ahead and check out their website, www.bellyupsports.com, to read some great articles from great writers all across the country, from hockey, baseball, golf, soccer, you name it. BellyUpSports is the premier, not your average website. All right, guys. So the first topic, and I'm going to just get this out of the way because it happened. Luckily, I was at a wedding, so I didn't have to watch this Houston Dynamo Inter Miami game because basically the issues that they had defensively. And I did watch the game, guys. I rewatched the game. Obviously, I'm gonna have to, even if I wasn't looking forward to the result. I had to see what all went wrong in that game, and yes, a lot went wrong in that game. Yeah, pretty bad performance defensively. Once again, it's going to be one of those days where everyone's going to be like, this is why we need a better goalkeeper. And in reality, like, defensively, this team is just terrible. Like, I don't know what happened from last year or what happened literally since the start of the second half against FC Dallas. This defense went down to pooper because the defense is gifting it to Inter Miami. But that's not what we're talking about. Obviously, the match went down the way it did. But obviously, the main talking point is that Messi was not available for this match. They actually decided to not have him travel to Houston for the fact that they had some CONCACAF Champions Cup a match also going on in this week. So obviously, the game has already been played by the time this episode drops. But because of that, they decided to rest Messi. So obviously right now the goal is to focus on the triple C. MLS, while is still a priority, there's still some makeup ground. They can still make up for it. So right now to focus on Champions Cup is the logical sense for them. Because once again, the objective in MLS is just to make the playoffs. Once you get there, then you can shift to that second gear and make your push for the playoffs. But so and as far as the strategy goes, I'm not mad at it. The problem comes in is that obviously a lot of people bought tickets to this Inter Miami game versus Houston game, mainly because obviously they get a chance to see Messi in person. Now, I'm one of those people that it's not a guarantee you're going to see Messi. As someone that bought tickets to go see Inter Miami versus Tigres, not to go see Messi. Well, I mean, yeah, the goal was to potentially watch Messi, but I was there just to watch the game, so I didn't care. I had a good time. I got to watch Tigres, and Tigres is a fun team to watch, especially their goalkeeper, who is once again a dog. But and then also Marcelo Flores also plays their Arsenal youth product. Didn't pan out too well for him, but still, he's in Tigres. It's a big club. And I mean, along with the other names that you could think of, Gignac and all that also play for Tigres. But I had fun at the Tigres Miami game. Yeah, I think once they announced that Messi was not going to play in the game, the stadium was very much not full, and so I think that it would have been a lot fuller if Messi was going to be at the game and he didn't. So a lot of people were disappointed, which I think is stupid. You're still going to watch a competitive match. It's still a tournament, Leagues Cup, however you want to take it. It's still a competitive match. And aside from that, you still got to see Sergio Busquets and Jordi Alba. So I don't think that, and I mean, all in all, it wasn't and I mean, it was Tigres, which, by the way, I was more just happy to see the Tigres crowd because they are a fun fan base. They're very, very passionate, and I love their supporter section. I think they did such a fantastic job being supportive for their club, and obviously, their club did well. So, I mean, why wouldn't you be having a blast? And so, but the point was, we bought those tickets, yes, in hopes of seeing Messi, but we know in reality it's never guaranteed. And I mean, in that context, obviously, Messi was playing for Argentina in the Copa America, and I believe he had an injury in the final. Yeah, I think it was the final. So he was injured. So he didn't get to finish the game, and obviously you're not going to rush him back onto the field, so you're going to take your time with him to make sure he's not fully in, to get him better, so he can't be back on the field. But and then plus it was Leagues Cup, so I get it. But Oh no, I wasn't disappointed. I mean, yes, people. It's crazy that you spend a crazy amount of money to go see this guy, and then not to get him. I get it, but once again, in this sport, there's no guarantees. People get hurt, injuries happen, or teams that play in multiple tournaments, which once again, Inter Miami, they're in a position where they cannot get embarrassed. They cannot be embarrassed yet again in the MLS Cup playoffs when they got embarrassed by Atlanta United and didn't even make it past the first round of the MLS Cup playoffs when they were the heavy favorites to win the MLS Cup. So when you in that context, obviously they don't want these guys to get hurt or overworked. And yes, the MLS schedule can be very congested, especially when you're playing in multiple tournaments like Inter Miami is. So it's not to me like common sense tells you that there is a probability that they're going to rest Messi, especially when you have not only MLS games but CONCACAF Champions Cup games to focus on. So, and at this point, priority does go to Champions Cup. It's early on in the MLS season where you can still turn things around, get yourself in a playoff position. Well, obviously, you want to get in a playoff position that guarantees you home field advantage, but still, at that point, it's just shifting into gear to that playoff. So just make it be in a playoff position, you're fine. And I think if there's one thing to apply Mascherano or Inter Miami in general that they're learning is that they understand now that they don't have to go all out in the season. Once again, the season still matters, people. You still have to be in a playoff position. I'm not saying that the season doesn't matter, but Inter Miami is learning their lesson. They said, hey, we don't have to go all out in the MLS season, at least initially. Maybe in that second half, we got to shift into gear and start getting ourselves in a favorable position in the playoff seeding. But right now, we have X amount of tournaments that we got to focus on. Oh, I mean, obviously, I think it's just CONCACAF Champions Cup. Leagues Cup won't be till later on, but still, you get the point. And obviously, they're also going to be in FIBA Club World Cup. Or are they going to be? No, I don't think they're in Leagues Cup this year. But they do have the FIBA Club World Cup coming up as well. But the focus right now is CONCACAF Champions Cup. So it is perfectly fine with me. It is not the end of the world for Messi not even Messi choosing. It was the club deciding that they need to rest their players, which I mean, everyone can understand that concept. This isn't the NBA. Now the NBA is a whole different story, and might get into that a bit just because of this. But like, anyways, so a bunch of fans got really pissy, got mad that Messi wasn't going to be on the field. Like, oh, we bought our tickets to see Messi. We were only going to go there to see Messi, which is heartbreaking as a Dynamo fan because you would want people to go watch the Dynamo and experience the Dynamo. And, obviously, and I get it. It's Messi. I get it. It's not saying I don't, but I do get it. Um, but but this is where the outpour or the outrage happened as far as the U.S. soccer truthers and blah 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 whatever. Um, the Houston Dynamo ends up announcing that they apologize, that they have no control of what the teams do with their roster, and um, offered a free ticket for a future Dynamo game, and for them to use, for them to use for not being able to have Messi, which I think is cool. I think it's cool that they're doing that. I think and once again, I think people are like, "Oh, this is an unserious league." I get also the outrage as well, but because once again, you can't guarantee players are going to play. That's something that clubs just can't do. But unfortunately, the Houston Dynamo did promote Messi when they offered specific ticket packages to guarantee them that Inter Miami game. They did like 5 game promos and game plans that did feature the Inter Miami game. Obviously, because obviously Messi once again was potentially you're going to see Messi on the field. Keyword potentially, not that you're guaranteed to see him. Potentially, you're going to see Messi, and once again, so people like if you're going to, and I get it that you're mad that you didn't get to see Messi, but at the end of the day, that's the reality. Now, the Houston Dynamo, on the other hand, had an opportunity to be like, hey, Messi's not on the field. This is a chance so we can win more fans. We can gain new fans by showing that we have a good field product on the field. And we're learning now Benny Ball is probably not the best. And once again, I'm not a fan of playing from the back. I have never been a fan of playing from the back. We need to send the ball. We need to push the ball up once we get that. Once we're able to get the ball back in our possession, and it was frustrating Um, the game was just frustrating in general. Having to rewatch it, already knowing what the result was going to be, wasn't easy. But I watched it because I guess I'm a man. I don't know. I don't really know if I am. I feel like I was. I feel like I was getting cucked at that point. I'm not gonna lie. I was having to sit there and watch. I was literally. It was like I was in that little hotel room with the extra chair, the cuck chair, and that's literally how I felt because I already knew what the result was, and I was just not having fun. I did not have fun enjoying that. I did not have fun watching Luis Suarez get 3 assists and a goal. Um, yeah, it was just a bad performance overall by the Dynamo, and I wouldn't be surprised if no one, and I mean nobody, uses that free ticket. I would not be shocked by it. Some may, and I'll give them a high five if they do, but I get it. I get it if you don't. That game was an embarrassment. It's just they took the piss out of it, and it pisses me off now watching having to like, talk about it now. But it is the reality, man. And I don't think it was bad that the Dynamo were offering free tickets. I think that's kind of what you have to do because we know that like for people that are trying to, we're not Europe, we're not South America, we're not Latin America, but we're definitely not Europe. Like we don't have people that are just wanting to be fans because once again it goes back to people believing MLS is an inferior product. If they think MLS is an inferior product, they're gonna much rather watch something else than watch the MLS. They would much rather watch Tigres than watch an MLS game. Like it's just point proven. Whenever the Dynamo do have to host Tigres or America, any team from Liga MX, they pack the you get packed. Well, I'd say a big Liga MX side, like okay, like Chivas, like Guadalajara, and all that. Big name, right? Um, they packed that stadium, and it's literally a home game for that team. So once again, people would much rather support those teams than watch the Dynamo, watch MLS teams. You know, like, and like people shouldn't be shocked by this because I mean, like even the days when Giovanni Dos Santos, people would come mainly just to see Giovanni Dos Santos. I don't. This isn't new. Just because yes, it's Messi. This isn't new. People have done this to go to when Thierry Henry was in the league. People would go watch it for Thierry Henry. They didn't go watch the Dynamo. They went to go watch Thierry Henry. Same, David Beckham. Same thing. No, like this isn't new. The only thing that's new is that people are that you have the Houston Dynamo and Vancouver. Vancouver also did a similar thing where they apologized to the fans for Messi not being available for the game, and then offered some sort of, I guess, for some sort of consolation for showing up anyways. And and people were like, oh, this is American sports. Like that's the reality. This is American sports because, and people that are gonna try to say no, it's not. Yes, it is. Because if that's the case, how come? And let's just to give an example, the Houston Astros, right? The Astros play, let's say the Angels. Tickets are probably like what? Let's just say for like the seats I usually end up buying, it's like $90. All right, so they're $90, right? And that's to watch them play the Angels. Now, when the Yankees come into town, that $90 ticket all of a sudden becomes $150 because it's the New York Yankees. You're talking about being able to see Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, you know that. So I don't want to hear it. It does happen in the NBA too. Oh man, NBA is such a prime example of it. So especially because once again, I used to work for the Rockets, so I saw it in person. People wouldn't go see Memphis Grizzlies. People wouldn't really come to see who's another team that was kind of mid. Memphis Grizzlies was pretty mid at that time. It's not the same John Morant team like it is now, and I don't know how they're doing right now actually. But Memphis Grizzlies, the Timberwolves. This is obviously before who they have now. I forgot the kid's name now, which I feel terrible because he's a stud. But these really mid basketball teams, tickets would be actually more affordable than normal, and then you'll go but people wouldn't go. You know where people would go? When the Lakers were in town. LeBron James, you get a chance to go see LeBron James play. People would pay, that would pack the stadium, just people going there to see the Lakers. The Warriors with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. That stadium will get packed for those guys too. You can't be saying that this is just an MLS thing. No, it's a very much an American thing. People do go to see big and interesting teams. I'm sure Kansas City Chiefs, like it's the road show for them to go see Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Like those tickets do get a little bit pricier because it is the Kansas City Chiefs because people want to go see the Kansas City Chiefs. Like maybe people don't really care too much about going to see the Tennessee Titans, but they're gonna go see the Kansas City Chiefs when they come into town. And so yes, and then saying all the people like, oh man, I'm gonna hate to see somebody in a Miami kit. People come into the Rockets. I've seen people at the Rockets games wearing, Golden State Warriors gear, even though they're from Houston. I've been to Astros games where I've seen people wear Yankees gear when they're from Houston. Like, so this isn't. If you're gonna say MLS is an unserious league for doing this, it's the same thing for like the U.S. sports in general is an unserious league. Then because that's literally what it is. I wish we could be at the level of Europe. I wish that we could be even at the level of Latin America. Hell, I wish we'd be at the level of El Salvador. But we're not. This league is so still young. The culture, the interest in soccer is still not there. And so as much as I would love for the day that happens, we're nowhere near it. That's why people clown Americans for especially the Americans that do love soccer, because, once again, they don't take us seriously because things like this, even though I'm sure plenty of them have gone over to gone to Camp Nou to go watch Messi play, but it's a little different over there because you're going to a Barcelona game. You're not, it's a whole long story. But anyways, I'm fine with what the Dynamo did. I don't think it was stupid or anything like that. What I am kind of disappointed is people's reactions to it. And that's the people complaining about how this is unserious when in reality this is just what American sports culture is. They want to see big matchup. They want to see they'll come flock for the good teams. They'll come flock for the best. WNBA, oh no, another great example, right? The Caitlin Clark show. Ticket prices for an average WNBA game is nothing compared to when Caitlin Clark is in town. And then all of a sudden tickets go up, stadium is packed because they're trying to watch Caitlin Clark do her thing. WNBA is probably the best example of what MLS is. And what's funny enough is you have some people like Angel Reese that get pissed off that people are only glazing Caitlin Clark. And let's be honest, Angel Reese is probably not a great example, but still, people are also tired of the Messi glazing here in the MLS. But the reality is, that's who's bringing money to the league. Messi is bringing money to the league, just like Caitlin Clark is bringing money to the WNBA. Like, I don't like it, but that's the reality of it. So, what can you do? And at the end of the day, what can be done? I don't know. Probably make your team better. I don't know. Stop having your defenders play from the back because clearly they're not capable of doing that. That's just me. That's just my thought. But yeah, there's that. All right. This is the tough part of doing shows by yourself because then you try to find a break to try to drink some water. All right. So this week in headlines has been literally the period of people just talking dumb stuff. We'll start things off with San Diego. San Diego was in their first home stadium, their home opener, and they got hit with a chant. Obviously, San Diego is very much having a strong Mexican influence, especially with the likes of Chucky Lozano being your star player. As someone whose team once had a star Mexican player, you had a lot of Mexican fans that did come. And obviously, the chant that everyone is referring to is, of course, the puto chant, which, if you guys don't know, whenever they do a free kick, when the goalkeeper of the opposing team does a free kick, what they do is they do this ooh, and then when they kick the goal kick, they yell out puto. For some reason, they say it's a homophobic chant, a homophobic slur, a homophobic chant. It's not. The direct translation of puto is actually bitch. So, I mean, it's still not a good word. I'm not saying that it is, and this is me defending it. I'm just like, if you're gonna say it's homophobic, that's not the word. That's homophobic. There is a thing that and I'm not gonna say Mexican fans just is the only ones that chant this. Also, it's a very Latin based countries that some of them do this chant, but But Puto is obviously more well known for Mexico. There's another chant that they say. I'm not gonna say it, but it starts with a C word. But it does start with a C. That is the homophobic chant. So I think that people need to stop mixing it up. The puto chant is not a homophobic chant. They're just calling the goalkeeper bitch. That's literally all they're doing. They're not calling him. They're not calling him gay. Puto doesn't mean gay. It means bitch. But once again, it's still not a good thing to say. But San Diego got hit with there, and obviously now Concacaf more so. I want to say Concacaf more so, but I do believe there was a Real Madrid game, and the whole Asensio thing where the opposing team was like, chanting him to die or something like that, and I guess Vinicius Jr. stepped in with the referees and they paused the game till the fans calmed down. So I guess worldwide is actually very much a thing, but obviously we see it more on CONCACAF. But yeah, so the San Diego game actually had to be stopped for a bit because of the chant, but eventually, obviously the match went on. But so that happened. But all right, that was like something I didn't type up. I just, since we're all talking, since the main topic of the headlines is people just being outlandish with their speak. I thought I should throw that out there as well. But hey guys, this is Hector from the Insert Name FC podcast here to tell you guys about Canadips. It is a great tasting, superior alternative to traditional dip using CBD in a way that is radical, enjoyable, and effective. It comes in 5 core flavors: wintergreen, mint, citrus, mango, and American spice. Canadip CBD is the new evolution in dip, allowing guys to enjoy great, long-lasting taste without the downsides. If you guys want to go ahead and try them out, use the code BellyUp20 at CanadipCBD.com. Once again, BellyUp20 at CanadipCBD.com, and you'll get yourself 20% off your purchase. Thank you again for Canadips for being a great partner of BellyUpSports. Another one. So during the CONCACAF Champions Cup, there has been an ongoing investigation. CONCACAF is now investigating in a potential hate speech during the LAFC Colorado Rapids matchup. Rapids defender Chidozie Awaziem. He appeared to be very upset. It seemed like something between him and LAFC player Sergio Palencia said something to him that he just was not happy with, and because of that, it didn't look good. But so basically Palencia is accused of saying a derogatory term to Chidozie. Sergey Palencia is of Spanish descent. Chidozie, don't remember what country specifically he's from. I believe he's from Africa, but don't quote on me on that one. But yeah, it was, and Cherundolo. There was the match. At least it was discussed. Cherundolo did acknowledge that the incident did occur. Obviously, the league's going to have to do their investigation and decide what exactly would happen. As far as the result goes, I don't think that's going to change. LAFC will be advancing. They did knock out Colorado 2-2, moving on from having the away goals. But I mean, if it is found that Palencia said something racially offensive to Chidozie, I think that I believe he would be getting suspended. So that would probably be the punishment if it is turned out to be true. But we'll see what happens, man. I feel like maybe we get news about it, but I can't promise you anything. CONCACAF is such a bizarre confederation that, like, I don't know. I just don't like how they handle things sometimes. But yeah, so that was another thing that happened with this nonsense in the outlandishness of everything. The other thing that happened was Jose Mourinho being accused of a racist. So Galatasaray and Fenerbahce, which Fenerbahce is the club that Jose Mourinho now manages. Galatasaray and Fenerbahce is one of the biggest rivalries when it comes to Turkish league. So they were having their derby, and essentially Galatasaray is suing suing Jose Mourinho for inhumane rhetoric and racist comments. The phrase that's in question is this. This was something that Jose Mourinho ended up saying. I don't know if it was a press conference or what, but he ended up saying this. He's like, "I must also thank the referee. In the position I mentioned, everyone on the opponent's bench was jumping like monkeys. If it was a Turkish referee, he would have given the card in the first minute, and I should have taken it off in the fifth minute. I should have taken it off in the fifth minute. I don't know what that means. It was a great match for him. Vincenzo Montella has a lot of names on his plate. Has a lot of names on his plate, but I hope he is happy with his performance. The goalkeeper is not bad either. Um, so obviously the phrase in question that he's being accused for being racist is because he said that the opponent's bench was jumping like monkeys. Look, I mean, it's definitely. I think the term "jumping like monkeys" is not. It's a pretty common phrase. Now, I'm not saying that I use this phrase, but I do. Okay, just for a frame of reference, the nicknames that I have for my nieces, is Big Monkey and Little Monkey. I literally call them Monkey. That's like my little obviously nickname that I have for them. Is it because they're and they're pretty white. So, so it's not like a derogatory term. It's just they're my little monkey. Also maybe a hairy joke. I am really hairy, so I do make jokes that my dad's the missing link. So take that for what you wish. But I think the term "jumping like monkeys" isn't necessarily. I don't think it's racist. I think maybe, and now if the bench was majority, black players, and I think maybe that's going to be a bad look for him. But when you look at the Galatasaray bench, it was very clear a mixture of cultures, um, and not just of one complexion. So I think at this point Galatasaray is just reaching. I think this is a reach. I think it's a pretty common phrase. Like it's not like I mean, there's literally well, I'm not gonna talk about the nursery rhyme, but like, yeah, I think for in this context, I don't think that there was anything racial about it. Is Jose Mourinho a well-liked person? No. I mean, yeah, I think he's an acquired taste depending on who you are. We make fun of him a lot on this podcast, but I mean, with Jose Mourinho, is either you tolerate him or you hate him. That's really when it comes down to. Now, if you're a Jose Mourinho guy, like you genuinely like Jose Mourinho, like good for you. And I mean, he has his guys that will defend him till the end. And I think a lot of players did come up and defend Jose Mourinho. A lot of African players came up in defense of Jose Mourinho. One of the big names that did come up was obviously Ivory Coast legend Didier Drogba, who obviously from his time at Chelsea with Jose Mourinho. So he defended Jose strongly, saying that he is not, in fact, a racist person. The obviously once again the term "jumping like monkeys" directing towards the bench of Galatasaray was not intent of racism. But at the end of the day, Jose Mourinho will be banned for 4 matches. It's actually going to be two separate 2 match bans. So the first 2 match ban is for the comment of saying that the bench was jumping like monkeys, and this, which I'm hoping, I wouldn't be shocked if Fenerbahce decides to appeal that one. And the second was for his comments towards the referee. Now, this one I do believe. I do believe that Jose Mourinho said something to the referee to piss him off because, once again, Jose Mourinho is an asshole, and this is where I do agree that okay, but I mean, yeah, he did, like I said, he did say a lot of things about the referee. The whole jumping like monkeys thing, like it's not the best collection of words to use. I get it, but I think in this context, it's not racism. It's not like Jose, and I'm like, the reason why I say Jose Mourinho cannot, like, there's no way he's racist because the fact that, like, some of the players that he's given opportunities for are very diverse, and I think that, like, if he was racist, he wouldn't give those guys those opportunities. Like, there's a reason why a lot of Jose Mourinho guys are from Africa, and so Drogba is a great example. Michael Essien, another one of his guys. Um, Adebayo, Adebayo is another one. Like, and those guys, love him and speak highly of Jose Mourinho, which is insane because not many people will. But once again, Jose Mourinho. I don't think he's a racist. I think he's a very opinionated guy. Can be viewed as an asshole, but racist. I don't think that that's what he is. And so, I'm sure that if I'm Fenerbahce, I definitely appeal the first, the first two match ban for the jumping like monkeys comment, because once again, context does matter, and I think from reading all the Twitter threads and all that, a lot of people are in defense of Jose Mourinho because once again, do people believe he's an asshole? 100%. But is he a racist? No. There's no there. It's hard to point out that he's a racist. I think it's impressive if you do believe he's racist. And I mean, I'm not saying that it's not out of it's not outside of the idea that he could be, but I just don't think he is. I don't. You can't. I just don't see it. Once again, it's a term that I think is a pretty common term, not towards a specific racial group. So I think yeah, I think that this is one of those that Galatasaray was just reaching for something and um try to make themselves be the victim, and that's where it comes down to. But yeah, Jose Mourinho. At least I'll say it. I don't think he's racist. All right, the last thing. So African Cup of Nations versus Jamie Carragher. Oh man. Jamie. Jamie. All right. If you guys don't know who Jamie Carragher is, he is a former Liverpool player, now is an analyst for Sky Sports, and he also does the Champions League coverage for Paramount. Obviously, he's a part of that iconic group of Kate Scott, Thierry Henry, and Michael Richards. Jamie Carragher is known for a lot of things, and it's mostly because of how his accent is very different versus others, and sometimes it's hard to understand what he's saying. But also, he is very strongly opinionated on certain things, especially when it involves his Liverpool. Jamie Carragher made some comments about the African Cup of Nations when it was discussed about Mohamed Salah, who, by the way, is going on a tear of a season. He's really killing it right now for Liverpool, and obviously, right now, Liverpool looking pretty strong in the English Premier League and also looking pretty strong for the Champions League. And, a lot of people are talking about him being a strong favorite. Okay, maybe not everyone, but there is discussions of him being a favorite for the Ballon d'Or this year. Um, Obviously, people are throwing up Vinicius' name, uh, which I don't know how you do that, um, but anyways, so for me, I think right now Mohamed Salah is definitely very much the front, at least should be the front runner, for the Ballon d'Or. But anyways, that's not we're not here to talk about that. Oh man, mind you guys, I literally just drove back from where I was for the wedding. So if you hear me yawning, that's probably because of that. But anyways, so Mohamed Salah once again, he's on a tear, and I do believe African Cup of Nations will be kicking off in January. Now, if you guys know what the African Cup of Nations is, you are missing out on a really fun tournament. It is CAF, the CAF. It is the Confederation of African Football. I think that's yeah. I think it's Confederation of African Football. Um, it is the continent of Africa's tournament. This is where all the African nations compete, essentially like the Euro and Copa America and Gold Cup. And obviously the unique thing is they do it in January. They do it in January, so which I believe Asia also has their competition as well in January. So I think this not this year, but this the next January when January comes around again, African Cup of Nations will be kicking off, or unless they're doing it in the summer. I don't know. I need to do some research on that, but you know, in hindsight, when it comes to Ballon d'Or, how this player is impactful for their team is something that is noticed. Whether it's and obviously if you're doing well, your team should be able to showcase that as well by competing for league titles and tournaments. Which right now, like I said, Liverpool is doing really good. Mohamed Salah has been a very much an impactful player for the Liverpool team, and right now they're at least in the up. I think still first place in the English Premier League, and finish on top of the table in the Champions League. They are paired off with PSG in the first round of 16 matchup. Um, I think it'll be a fun matchup. I still think Liverpool will do well. But Mohamed Salah obviously is going to be the guy that you look at because he's on a tear. He's probably set to break a record this season the way at the pace he's going as long as he stays healthy. And obviously, along with that, you have to throw out the Ballon d'Or and one of the things that was brought up was how Jamie Carragher felt that if he were to go to the African Cup of Nations, it would hinder his chances of being eligible to win the Ballon d'Or. Like it's gonna hurt his case. Once again, we're talking about a an international tournament that I will say maybe I will say certain people probably don't necessarily care too much for this tournament. And I think it's those people that it's if it's not the Euro and it's not Copa America, then it's probably a lesser tournament, which is what I think people view AFCON, the Gold Cup, the Asian Cup, Oceania's Cup. I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. Anyways, which maybe viewership wise, they maybe have a point, but which I mean, I'll be to be fair though, African Cup of Nations, they're right now being last time I checked, as far as I know, previous time when I watched AFCON, it wasn't being sports. Do they get a better TV deal? I don't know, and I haven't heard anything about it yet. But yeah, so it does. It's not very. It's not like a huge. It doesn't like unless you really keep up with African Cup of Nations, you're not really gonna know where these matches are gonna be played. But from what I've seen, it's a fun tournament. The passion is there. The energy is just a completely different level. I mean, when I watched the last African Cup of Nations, seeing it in the Ivory Coast and seeing the Ivory Coast make it go so far and win the whole thing when no one expected them to do. And also that's also the fun thing about this tournament. It's so hard to predict because you really have no idea who wins it. Like like you have your front runners like Morocco, Egypt, and Senegal, and then you have this Ivory Coast team who many people had doubts in win the whole damn thing. So I think that that's the beauty of African Cup of Nations. Where I would put this over Gold Cup. And the reason why is because I think Gold Cup's a little bit more predictable than African Cup of Nations because of the fact like it's probably going to be USA and Mexico. Maybe Canada finally wins their second Gold Cup, but like it's going to be those three. Whereas in AFCON, there has been like it's just hard to predict who wins it because anything can happen. Um, so Jamie Carragher made his thoughts. Obviously, an outpour of people just not happy with what was being said by Jamie Carragher. Rio Ferdinand spoke out. He insisted that we must not devalue cup competitions outside of the Euro, which I feel like that was exactly what Jamie Carragher's point. Jamie Carragher then called him a clown. So I'm glad we're being mature about this. But the reality is, you don't like. I mean, yes, you can pick what nation you play for, but in reality, like I think the guys that truly want to play for their African nation, there is a strong passion, a strong feeling to want to not only represent their country, but represent the continent of Africa. Like if you can be that African nation that can go up and potentially win a World Cup, it's going to be so big, not only for that country, but once again for the continent of Africa, because there's so many players that come out of Africa. And unfortunately, some of these guys do end up making a switch to another national team. We've seen it. Obviously we always have that guy that brings out the graphic of all the countries that these French players that are French and French and connected to an African nation where they could play, which country they could have been playing for, and all that. Um, that's a whole conversation for another day. But and even Musa, and he talks about that, and I think this would have been a great conversation to have Musa with, but yeah, that's the reality, man. Like there is people that do look at this tournament as an inferior tournament, but once again, you have so many great players that come out of the continent of Africa that you know say a youth player gets this opportunity to represent Nigeria, and you have a coach is like, you don't want to go there, man. You want to wait till that English call up. And sometimes they never get that English call up. And then we have those players that, are just like, okay, I'm not going to get called up by England. Let me go play for Nigeria. And that pisses off some people that are from Nigeria where they're like, you're just selling for us. We want guys that want to play for this national team. And there is guys that do want to directly play and represent these national teams. And I think that with that passion comes in the fun of African Cup of Nations. It is so passionate. It is so fun. I love every minute of these matches. It's just it's unlike anything else. And so I can't wait for AFCON. I'm going to be watching it. Hopefully Salah's healthy. And me and Musa, we talk about all the time, like, who is a player from African Cup of Nations that can help increase their stock from having a strong African Cup of Nations? Because I'll be honest with you, like, what was it, the years with Sane and Salah, like, they've had some pretty rough African Cup of Nations as well. Like, their teams have done fairly well, but they weren't the reason for it. And so sometimes that doesn't help their stock. But like, it'd be cool to see the day where we see another African player lift the ball door besides, obviously George Weah. But it starts off with people recognizing these tournaments. Like, it isn't just World Cup and Euro and Copa America. Like, there's other international tournaments that are really cool. Like, I got to watch the Arabic Cup when it was all Arabic countries playing in that tournament, and I thought that was really interesting. To go in to see teams from the Middle East and see how they play. I'm open to seeing that. Like, what is the quality in Iran? What is the quality in Asia? And I think that's how we need to be more of, like, don't view it as a lesser tournament. And that's what Jamie Carragher did. And then also the reality is Mohamed Salah is Egyptian, and plays for Egypt, and Egypt plays in CAF, and CAF plays in AFCON. Like, what do you want him to do? Opt out of Egypt? Like that's just stupid. So Jamie, and look, there's things that I enjoy from Jamie Carragher, and there's things that I don't. This is one of those cases where, it's unfortunate, especially how big he is as big as he is in the media, for him to say things like this, especially with the guys he's played with, and to come out with something like this, knowing that it is reckless. It's disheartening. But the reality is, man, if you guys go watch AFCON, if you guys get a chance to watch AFCON, go watch it. It is such a fun tournament. I can't wait. Two reasons why I can't wait for African Cup of Nations. One, it's the African Cup of Nations, and two, definitely going to be trying to get Musa on to talk African Cup of Nations with, because, like I said, really fun tournament. But yeah, that's headlines, man. Yeah, just a wild week of straight shenanigan talk from people. But yeah, man, that happened. So we're gonna take a break, and then we'll go right into our recap of episode 2 of MLS Onside with Jose Tejas of GolzTV.
Fight and win!
All right, guys, episode 2 of MLS Onside, and I'm gonna call my shot right now, Jose. I'm sure, obviously, Jose Tejas from GolzTV. We're doing this series with this guy. Of course, he loves MLS. I'm sure right now he's really happy right now where his team's at right now, MLS. Meanwhile, I'm not gonna talk about my team right now. So I'm
different start.
I'm putting some shin guards on as we speak at this point. Like, put me on defense at this point. Like,
some great goals scored this past weekend, man. Great goals.
All-time clip by Ben Olsen, by the way. So
That game was rough
I
to
wish
watch,
that
bro.
was the strategy implemented because that strategy sounded better than than the actual game plan. But
Bro, that game was rough to watch, man. But Sunday Night Soccer got goals.
yeah, I mean it was a full stadium too, so I was like
Yeah,
foolish stadium. So
saw
a lot,
a lot of pink in there.
lot of pink. Yeah, I've already went on a rant on this episode, so yeah, you'll get to hear that. But yeah, so yeah, and I literally rewatched it knowing I'm like I know what's happening, but I have to
Yeah,
rewatch it just so I know at least somewhat of an idea what happened in that game, and I I I definitely felt like I got cucked. So that's the
fair
best
enough.
word to describe it. But anyways, something that was more entertaining, unless you were, I guess, a Miami fan or a real Miami fan. Uh, MLS Onside episode 2. I'm gonna call my shot right now, Jose. I think this was your favorite episode.
You know what, man? You're not terribly wrong. Not terribly
I
wrong.
mean, I literally have not seen any of the other episodes, but
Same.
this episode has arguably one of the top rivalries now in MLS. Um, that's up for debate, and we'll talk about that a little bit further. But this episode does feature the Hell is Real Derby, and that is actually the episode title is Hell is Real. The summary is Ohio's heated rivalry reignites as kickoff nears. Stars and managers discuss what's at stake. They will compete and leave it all on the pitch. Yeah, so if you guys don't know, Hell is Real Derby. It's the rivalry between FC Cincinnati and the Columbus Crew. Um, cross-state rivals. And recently now, I'm not going to say of all time, but recently, this has been a very enjoyable rivalry where both teams are kind of looked at as the upper echelon of the MLS. But I guess this is where the question starts, man. Where does this rivalry rank amongst MLS in your opinion?
Currently, it is one of the premier rivalries, 100%, bro. And if you didn't know about this rivalry, I mean, like Hector, you said it before, right? Like being probably my favorite episode, bro. It probably was so far. Nothing against the Miami Galaxy storyline they built up in episode one, but this one, if you had no idea what this rivalry entailed, I think you got a good sense of it. With all of the bad blood and history that it comes with, especially recently. So I don't know, man. For me, I was there at Lower.com Field when Lucho came out as an all-star on that field, and the boos were not louder for anybody else, bro. Like they don't like each other, and you could feel it. I think to answer your question, bro, it's probably. I mean, look, it's no Texas Derby, you know what I'm saying? But no, man, it's got to be top two, probably. I mean, that and El Tráfico, I can't think of anything bigger right now. There are rivalries. Do not get me wrong, but none of them quite as heated or bad blood between them. I think that's why they chose to focus on the Hell is Real Derby, and even just pointing to where that comes from, right? The sign and the field on that highway, right? 100 miles between both cities. Um, I love the rivalry too for the personalities involved, man. Like I'll be honest, bro. I thought Noonan was a marshmallow. Did
Yeah, no.
not did not expect what I saw. And in the best way possible, bro. I'd love to play for a coach like that. Nancy's exactly how I expected him to be frank. I think he's a very much like the beauty of the game, inspiring players to just be the best version of themselves creatively while contributing to the team with value. So like all of that, I kind of just figured just by the way he carries himself. But yeah, bro. Two very distinctly different sides, coaches, players, everybody the whole way through, and they don't like each other. I think it was a great topic and focus for episode two.
Yeah, and obviously the highlight of that was initially talking about the last match, obviously the last time they faced off before this
Mm-hmm.
episode. And that was of course the Eastern Conference final where uh Cincinnati had the lead and then they choked it away and Columbus Crew goes ahead and wins the Eastern Conference and obviously led to them winning the MLS Cup, which I remember that run, Jose. You were very high that FC Cincinnati was going to make it to the MLS Cup. I don't remember if you were picking them to win it, but I know for sure you there was in your mind you're like you have to go into Cincinnati. I mean, you're right though. You're going into Cincinnati, you're Columbus, and you're gonna have to take you're going into that hostile environment, and it was a tough matchup. But Columbus found a way. I felt the mojo from Columbus Crew. I'm sure Shayan inserted his supporter shield winner can never win this thing. But yeah, I do remember that season, and Jose, I do remember for a fact you were very high on this FC Cincinnati team.
I was, bro. Up until up until it was 2-1 of that Eastern Conference final, was I super confident that I had picked the winner of the Eastern Conference and going into the MLS Cup. Bro, Xiaoyan, by the way, that day he wouldn't stop texting me after the game, but we were texting just throughout as things happened. And bro, I'm telling you, he was so low when it was 2-0. Nobody saw this shit coming. Right. And I think they did a good job of capturing that in this episode of Onside. I think like you have to understand how painful that was, bro. And just imagine it if it hurt me as somebody who was just predicting them. I have no stake in Cincinnati, right? I mean, that's a Dallas fan. Don't care what some random team in the Eastern Conference does. I think that they were just my solid pick to go all the way. Um, and bro, they had to really touch on that. And that way you just knew the history, the bad blood, all the motivation going into this first encounter in the 2024 season. So yeah, bro. They were so close to doing it last season, and that comeback hurt me as a neutral. Could only imagine what it's like to lose in front of your own fans after you were up 2-0. That's actually insane, bro. Like I just them going through it. I was like, this is like holy shit. Does this next game mean so much?
No, yeah, and I think I honestly would say, regardless of who was, if it was Cincinnati or Columbus, I think they both would have beat LAFC that year. I just the way they played, and I think they had a good answer to the way LAFC played that year.
Mm,
So that's where I was at, but yeah, and obviously it starts off with FC Cincinnati after they kind of give you a good like breakdown of the rivalry. And yeah, Pat Noonan, and I like how you mentioned how different he is from Wilfred Nazi. Pat Noonan is as American as it gets. Like his approach to soccer is very American.
yeah.
Um, and initially when he was talking, I was like, wow, this is a very dry person. Um, but he
Like in
does,
the first 2 minutes when he hadn't gone in the field yet.
yeah. Yeah, and then he got on the field, and then he's like super animated, and yeah, you're talking about a guy that, and I think Pat Noonan, he was from LAFC, I believe, right? He was under
Yeah, he
Michael
was on the staff.
Bradley's staff and LAFC. So yeah, this is his first job as FC Cincinnati, and I mean, amazing impact that he's done with this team. I mean, obviously they also did some good things in as far as finding players to gel well, and obviously the big one is obviously of course Lucho Acosta,
Yeah,
who the previous year was the MVP. And obviously when you think of FC Cincinnati, at least that 2022 year, it was such an epic year for them, right? You know, supporter shield winner, Lucho Acosta MVP, Matt Miazga, defender of the year. So this was a team that was prime and ready to finally get their final, like what all the Cincinnati fans were hoping from their move from USL to MLS. And yeah, Pat Noonan I think was the right guy for this job, and I think it shows how a lot of that LAFC influence definitely helped him out.
yeah. No, I definitely did. I think all of those accolades obviously is what made the loss that much worse to your biggest opponent after having such a crazy good year all the way around. But again, right, the supporter shield curse, as Shayan would say, as most I think MLS sickos would say, it claims another one. I don't think we'll see. I'll be honest, like even with Evander now in 2025, I don't think we'll see a season that prolific from Cincinnati for at least another couple seasons. I just don't. I think that version of Lucho, that version of even Miazga, because that was before his injury, right in 2024. So yeah, just with all the good pieces they had, Barreal was still in the league, like bro, yeah, it's so tough. I know they have Oriano now, and it is what it is. But yeah, bro. I mean, that's what makes it worse. Is like if there was a year to do it, that would have been the season. And you got to go watch your biggest rival not just beat you to get to MLS Cup, but to go on and beat LAFC too.
Yeah, and they featured a few since two Cincinnati players. The first one was obviously Matt Miazga was the first one that they mentioned, and obviously you hear everything that they said about Matt Miazga. I'm sure we're all familiar with Matt Miazga as far as what he was. Actually, he was the one we were talking about going into this episode when we last week. But obviously physical, hot-headed, dog, like all the words you can think of. But obviously his storyline that I think is interesting is the fact that he has in the back of his head knowing that he could have been helpful in that Eastern Conference final game had he not had a stupid red card, not in field play, in penalties, sinks his penalty kick. And yeah, and the greatest thing of all time, hoping that maybe the referee changes his mind. when you it has
I
never
heard that,
worked,
bro.
has never worked, and it never will work to talk to a referee and say, "Look, man, that wasn't the red card." So
Especially after the fact. Like when is that? I mean, one, it's probably never worked. Again, I don't like you said. I don't think I've ever seen a game where somebody has successfully turned around a ref's decision without VAR. Like I've never seen that. I've never seen a ref go back on it. So and if it's going to happen, it's gonna happen in the moment, bro. It's not gonna happen when you charge him up in his private space, private quarters, right in the ref's locker room, at halftime or whatever it was, and during a stoppage of the game. That makes no sense. None. Just with all of that said, with how dumb, just pure stupidity out of Miazga, like just even watching it back, bro, I thought it was dumb back then, but like now it's just to understand how passionate he was about winning and to let something that small just fuck with him. Even if you get the yellow, bro, who cares? Like you knew you were taunting, you knew you were walking over there to start shit. Just own it. Like, yellow, okay, fine, whatever, walk away. Right? That's it. Just walk away. Like I got what I got. It was totally worth it. I respect it, bro. I would still take Matt Miazga on my team tomorrow, 100%. I think there's more good than bad with someone like that. He's obviously, like you said, a dog, right? The mentality is there. He wants to push others to be just as passionate and physical as he is. But every now and then you're gonna get one of these, and bro, it's we all know what happens to Miazga in 2024, but yeah, I don't know, man. It's tough in those moments. I can only imagine what he still feels about that, just looking back at it and how dumb that was, not to let it go. But I mean, hey, I mean, the storyline itself, I think really could sell non-MLS fans on some of the storylines in this league. 100%. You need personalities like that to make MLS more interesting.
yeah, and I think I also love how Matt Miazga in the I guess I don't know the interview when he was interviewing his recollection of that him going into the locker room was I just decided to have a conversation with him, and in the clip it's literally him yelling at the referee.
Yeah,
So like
we're just talking, bro. We're just talking.
yeah, he's like, I was just there having this really intellectual conversation about all I could think about was like the whole crew just like
Yeah, for real.
were we at the same place? Like, camera guys just like, dude, I was with you the whole time.
I heard nothing but yelling. But yeah, I mean, look, bro, like, he seemed like his person or how he was talking about it seemed interesting. Like you heard his voice like go up a little higher when he was talking. I think I think he tried to make certain moments like that whole situation a little more lighthearted than it was. Um, but yeah, bro, I mean, however he sees it, he may not have any remorse. I don't know, but I'm sure his teammates from back then do. And yeah, missed opportunity.
Yeah, and I mean, Matt Miazga is such an interesting story just because of obviously promising New York Red Bull Academy product, gets the opportunity to get signed to Chelsea, goes on a lot of loans. I lost so many. I lost count how many times he went on loan. Um,
A lot of potential,
and then comes back to MLS. I think at one point was playing in the Polish some league. I forgot it was either Poland or Switzerland, one of those leagues. But
probably.
then now he's back in MLS. Do I want to see him with the U.S. men's national team? I think it's a good name to drop every once in a while, but he's definitely a Camp Cupcake guy. Like I think like yeah, and then maybe he can earn a spot from there. Especially I just love seeing him against Mexico. He just seems to know how to push the buttons right. I mean, and honestly, when it comes to Mexico USA, there has to be a dog on the U.S. side because yeah, if you don't have someone protecting your guys, it's pretty rough. Like if you don't have that Weston McKennie, if you don't have that Sergino Dest is a dog, by the way. I don't care if anybody tries to disagree with me. That dude is ready to throw hands. So,
Always, always.
but yeah, Matt
Yeah, bro.
Miazga, obviously the all-time. You must be this tall, which hurts me a little bit as a 5'6" guy. I don't know how tall Diego Lainez is, but I imagine somewhere around there.
Somewhere around there, probably.
So yeah, not great for my ego, but my people are known to be short, so there's nothing I can do with that.
It was funny nonetheless. It was funny.
Yeah, I was like, this guy, which is how I feel every time I see a Matt Miazga play. Is like this guy.
I think if you could back it up, bro, like if you're about it, I mean, I personally have no issues with that, regardless of who it is or what the situation is. I think at the end of the day, if you could back it up, do it, right? But you have to be able to do it. Like if not, you deserve to get dunked on afterwards when you lose because you couldn't bring it with all that shit you were talking. So Miazga's him, bro. Good player. I tell you, man, I would take him on a team any day of the week and just hope to God that his mouth or his actions don't get him in trouble.
Exactly. And of course, the other player that was featured was Lucho Acosta, which I'm sure Jose was very much happy to have him featured on this episode because in reality, like as much as like everyone was like, yeah, he's FC Cincinnati's legend. He's done so much for this team, and it's just like, well, we all know where he ends up in 2025. We knew how bad that ended up for that marriage at least, but yeah, all the things that they had to say about Lucho Acosta, and I think. Yeah, I think it was perfect the way they described him. I think, his whole relationship with FC Cincinnati, like, no offense, Jose, but I'm always going to remember him as the FC Cincinnati. Unless he wins the MLS Cup with FC Dallas, there's no way that um like he's going to have that special red carpet treatment over there in Cincinnati. Like when he hangs it up, it's going to be always remembered for his time there. Like I said, once again, unless he's able to get FC Dallas over to the MLS Cup and finally win that thing, um, yeah, I think he's going to be forever known as a Cincy player.
Yeah, I agree. To an extent, bro, he wins it with Dallas. I mean, again, he does something he never did over there. In which case, I think we all kind of know who the the hometown team for Lucho Acosta would be. But in all seriousness with the episode, I think it was he felt like Cincy's boy, like that was his town. Like this is his city. He's gonna be the Cincy guy. And look, and you could make that assumption, right? Knowing what we knew going into that point of his career, he was 29, about to be 30. There were, of course, rumors always that he might have looked to like leave. But at the end of the day, he was still there. Him and Noonan, you could tell too, actually, all throughout the episode, him and Noonan had a great relationship at one point. At one point, like I
Handed
mean, you
him
saw,
his 100 game
yeah,
100 game jersey,
he,
which
he was the one that handed it to him.
well
He
received
just
by the way by Noonan. So
I
I'll let me
respect it,
shit
bro.
on
As
you
a
guys
coach.
with this Orlando game.
Yeah, I actually respect it, bro. I respect it. Like, hey, this is great and all, but we still play like shit. Let's go through the tape. But no, man, you could tell, and even the speech, like when he accepted his MVP trophy. He praised Noonan a bunch at the very end of it. So yeah, bro. Curious to see how that develops throughout the rest of the series and into 2025. But yeah, bro, we all know what happens. And it's funny that this episode comes, at least we're watching it, the day after Lucho scored his first goal in FC Dallas colors. So yeah, man. Great,
Just
I think, representation of Lucho in this one.
Yeah, just more excitement for you now knowing that you have Lucho, you're a true 10, finally on your team. But
Dirt.
Righteous Felon Craft Jerky is the official jerky of Belly Up Sports. For over a decade, Righteous Felon Craft Jerky has led the American meat snack revolution by concocting delicious, adventurous, U.S.-sourced jerky recipes for uncompromising carnivores across the country. With 15 different flavors to choose from, Righteous Felon has all jerky lovers covered, and by using promo code BELLYUP, you will get 15% off your purchase at RighteousFelon.com. Do your taste buds a favor today and rip into a bag of Righteous Felon jerky.
and then obviously you got to go to Columbus Crew, which I love that they were like, "Hey, we're gonna go see the president," and for that, because we won the cup that you guys thought you were gonna win. So, But yeah, obviously, Wilfred Nancy, and I think everyone said that it was already what has been said about Wilfred Nancy being that he is just the true football mind. And I think his approach as a coach is so different versus others where it's like, let me grab guys that fit to what I think works, what works for what I do. And Nancy's always been like, and he says it too. He's like, no, I need to know what their strengths are so I can either enhance it or make it better. And so he was more so about, no, the players that we have are the players we have, and I can get them better. Which, I mean, we'll be honest, that Columbus Crew team has been felt like the was it pound for pound the best team in the MLS. I mean, the most complete team. I don't know how many times I used the word complete when we talked about Columbus, but and it is because of Wilfred Nancy, how he was able to steer that ship since he came over from Montreal.
Yeah. I also think he understood what he had. Like, just to be honest, I think he knows that. I mean, he kind of pointed out two players, but I could point out more. Darlington Nagbe, one of the best in the league. Cucho Hernandez, who they got to replace. Zella Rion, who equally himself, one of the better players in the league. Rossi, I would say, is up there with one of the better players in the league. Aiden Morris, also one of the best midfielders in the league. So, like, I think he understands that he had the pieces. He really didn't need to, like, stretch, club budget any further, transfer budget any further. It was more about just, collectively, can I get the best out of each player in this group so that we can, do what we did in 2023, go out and win it again. And so, I mean, I think we all agree, pound for pound, this team, in my opinion, is the most complete team, like you said, from top to bottom. And a decent percentage of that, again, is just due to the sheer talent he has on the pitch. I think 2025, we'll talk about it probably here and elsewhere, right? What their performance will look like this season. Not sure what to expect with some of the star power having exited the door. But at this point, 2024, I mean, like I said, Wilfred Nancy to me just was everything I expected him to be. I think he's confident in his approach. I think he knows it works. And I think that he now has a really, really good understanding of like what he needs to make his system work in Columbus, which makes it that much easier to let those players go and make the moves to keep the train rolling.
Yeah, also, this was the episode where both coaches were like, yeah, we sucked as players, but we're going to make this coaching job really, like, make it worth it. So, I mean, I just thought it was funny that they both acknowledged that. It was, like, almost mirror for mirror when it came to both these team storylines.
They seem grounded, like both of them. Like they're very aware of who they are. And bro, it sounds like every coach should be. Like maybe some people hear me say that, and like, yeah, you know what, that's what it's supposed to be. Like, yeah, it's what's supposed to be, but it's not always what happens. Managers get lost in the sauce. They especially if the team isn't performing, they start to question everything that they have been teaching them or coaching them. Switch things out of being reactionary. So they both seem like they know what they want to do, what it takes to get there, and it's just a matter of putting it all together while balancing the hurdles they got to overcome. Right, like both of them seem very, very grounded. Like they're both very experienced managers in this league, which you can argue even for Nancy. I know he's been here a good while now, but I wouldn't say he's like one of the most experienced or most veteran managers in this league. So in their own way, they're both kind of learning, but they because of how grounded they are, they're both pretty successful.
Yeah, and I think one thing about as far as Wilfred Nancy goes, and I mean, obviously, also props to Noonan. Noonan got to learn and study behind Michael Bradley. I think is a good mentor for him, but especially with LAFC with that team that they had. But with
Bob
Wilfred
Bradley?
Nancy,
Bob Bradley?
Bob Bradley, that's what I was thinking. My bad.
Michael? No, you're good. You're good.
I'm sure Michael Bradley came into play some point. But I think as far because like I think with Wilfred Nancy, it was the example of the coach that's not from the U.S. or MLS in general, to come in and be able to adapt themselves to this league. I think his time in Montreal, I think we saw glimpses of what he could do. Obviously, when he was given a more polished team like Columbus was, because I mean Columbus, they were not that far away from when they won it back in 2020, so they still had very much their core. And one of the players that they highlighted from that team was Darlington Nagbe, the hometown kid, if you will. And I love that he like let me bring out these championship rings.
What a flex, bro. I love that. And all honesty, bro, I mean, Darlington, he's probably up there. I wonder where most fans have him ranked individually as a player amongst all the MLS grades. Like, he's got to be up there, right? Like 3 rings with 3 different teams. Like, it's one thing to have that many championships, but to do it in multiple locations to almost stamp and verify that you are him. You know what I mean? That like teams need you to get where they want to go. That's what it feels like when you talk about Nagby's career. So yeah, I mean, I'd be really curious to see where MLS fans probably have him ranked, but yeah, bro, he had every right to flex, because he's done something that most players could really only dream of, as far as like being um, in the same league and winning that many titles with that many teams.
Yeah, and I think it's when he was talking about his rings, obviously the first one he won with Portland, which was against the Columbus Crew. You know, he mentioned he's like, yeah, I had to play against my hometown team, and then when he was with Atlanta, played against Portland in the final. And then obviously now the two that he won for Columbus back in 2020, and obviously the one from the previous year, being just being able to finally play for his hometown, and the way he talks, you can tell that like he's happy where he's at. He doesn't need to go anywhere else. And his story is so unique and really special. Like being someone that had to refuge into the U.S. from Liberia, and then gets his U.S. citizenship. Even played for the U.S. men's national team. I think he has a Gold Cup under his belt as well. But I think, oh man, I want to say people would All right, thank you, Jose, for coming on. Episode 2 of MLS Onside was very enjoyable. If you guys haven't been watching it, or probably because you don't have MLS Season Pass, which I don't blame you, but I do say check it out. It's really cool what they did with this, and hopefully this is a sign that we're gonna see more from MLS Season Pass and Apple TV. So at least that's where I'm fingers crossed. But all right, Players of the Week is brought to you by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is an amazing ticketing site app that gets you the best deals for tickets of live events like concerts, theater, comedy shows, and of course, sporting events. I love the simplicity. Edward loves simplicity. I mentioned it before. Me and him went to go see the Inter Miami Tigres Leagues Cup game. Yes, we didn't see Messi, but we still had fun watching that match. And SeatGeek was definitely the reason why we were able to enjoy it. It has an amazing grading system with numbers and colors. The higher the score, the greener the color gets. And obviously that means buy those tickets, those seats for that price, you're going to get a great deal out of it. And then if it's a low score and it's really red, that means keep searching in the app. You're going to find a better deal. We love the simplicity of SeatGeek. We use it a ton of times. And if you guys aren't sold just yet, for first-time users, if you use the code BellyUpSports at checkout, you'll save $20 off your first purchase. So once again, use that code BellyUpSports and save yourself $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. SeatGeek lives the event. We have the tickets. Players of the week. All right, so this is going to be a Barcelona double. They did have a really good performance against Real Sociedad. It was a 4-0 victory against Real Sociedad. So my player of the week is Dani Olmo, who provided 2 assists in that match, and Ronald Araujo, which I'm sure that's a popular name right now for Barcelona, is Edwards' pick, who scored a goal and got an assist in that 4-0 victory against Real Sociedad. So solid performance for Barcelona, I guess. Really wish I wasn't having to hype them up or having to acknowledge them, but yeah, here we are. But congratulations to Dani Olmo and Ronald Araujo for being our players of the week. Once again, use that code BellyUpSports at checkout at SeatGeek.com. Save yourself $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. Life's an event. We got the tickets. All right, guys, games to watch this weekend. So kicking off this weekend, we have the NWSL Challenge Cup, which is kind of like their pre-tournament to the season. So for you WOSO people, there you go. Go ahead and enjoy that one. We also have the USL Championship kicking off. Obviously, this is the league that's trying to rival MLS. If you are a promotion relegation guy, you better be watching this because this is the league that has it. So to prove everybody wrong about that promotion relegation does in fact work in the US, well, better watch it and support it. In Liga MX, we got 3 big matchups. We got Toluca versus Necaxa. Who would have thought I've ever say that? Cruz Azul versus Monterrey, and El Super Clásico, Chivas de Guadalajara versus America this weekend. So one of the biggest derbies in Mexico is happening this weekend. I wish I could tell you that both these teams are in their best form right now, but in reality, America is the team in form. Chivas de Guadalajara, pretty bad right now. But all right. In Portugal, we got Braga versus Porto. 2 teams that are doing really good over there in the Portuguese league. So make sure you guys keep an eye on that one. In Liga 1, we got Stade Rennes versus PSG and Marseille versus RC Lens. That's in Liga 1. In the Bundesliga, we got Borussia Dortmund taking on FC Augsburg. Borussia Dortmund also looking pretty decent as of lately. Also, SC Freiburg versus RB Leipzig. An also interesting matchup over there in the Bundesliga. In the Serie A, we got Hellas Verona versus Bologna. And Juventus versus Atalanta. Juventus having an opportunity to put a team down a peg over there in the Serie A battle for the Serie A title. In La Liga, we got Celta Vigo versus Leganes and Real Sociedad, who just got beat by Barcelona, taking on Sevilla. So we'll see if there's any bounce back, some teams that can improve their position in La Liga. In the Premier League, we got Nottingham Forest taking on Manchester City. Both teams that are doing really well in the English Premier League. We'll see what happens in that matchup. And we get Manchester United versus Arsenal. So me and Edward in our jersey bet. So this is our second matchup when it comes to Manchester United and Arsenal. So we'll see how that one pans out. I'm sure it's going to be a juicy matchup. yeah, we'll see what happens there. But those aren't all the matches, obviously. But if you guys need a good beginner's guide of some good matches to watch this weekend, I think we gave you guys some pretty good matches to look forward to. So, all right, we're going to take one more break, and then we'll wrap this show up in a pretty little bow for you.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan from No Credentials Required to talk to you about one of our newest partners at BellyUpSports, SeatGeek. Yeah, live sports is great on television, but the feeling of being at the arena is a priceless experience. That's why our friends at SeatGeek are there to help you find the best tickets at the best prices. Not only can you get tickets to sporting events, but you can also get tickets to concerts, comedy shows, musicals, and more. Search for your desired event now at SeatGeek.com, enter promo code BellyUpSports at checkout, and you save $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek. Life's an event. We have the tickets.
All right, guys. Episode 208. I got it done. Thank God. But before I wrap this show up, man, like I said, going to that wedding, it really had me really think a lot of obviously my time in the Marine Corps. For those of you who don't know, I served 5 years in the United States Marine Corps. I was only 18 years old. Didn't really have much, ambition for anything. I didn't think I was in the right headspace for college. And as far as going straight into the workforce, I didn't know. But I knew one thing, and that was I wanted to join the military. I wanted to serve my country. And secondly, I wanted to be a Marine. Obviously the Marine Corps has its reputation of being kind of the tough one, the toughest military branch in the U.S. All the stories, the history involving the U.S. Marine Corps, a lot of that really did push me into the decision to join the Marines. And so I joined. And, you learn a lot about yourself going through the Marine Corps military. I would say military in general, but like Marine Corps, obviously speaking only on my experience, the Marine Corps, you learn a lot about yourself once you're in that, and seeing how you mature as a person. And you learn a lot about building a community and building a family, because Marine Corps family is very much that. It's 100% a family. It's a brotherhood, sisterhood, and all those things. And obviously the reason why I'm saying all that is because obviously going to that wedding, going to New Braunfels to see my good friend Ramirez get married, it just made me really reflect a lot about my time in the Marine Corps, the bonds that I built amongst many people that I tried my best to like stay in contact with. It was great to also see another great friend, which was Klaus. It was great catching up with him, getting to meet his wife, and seeing that he's doing well. And I think that's also the other part, is seeing guys that you're with do well, because unfortunately the transition out of the military is not an easy transition. You go from a world that you feel indestructible, right? Like you're a Marine. You put your body through legitimately hell, and you somehow overcome it, and you come into this world and you kind of just feel mortal in some sense. And unfortunately for some people, they can't accept that fact, and I lost a lot of good friends because of it. And yeah, you really think about it, the losses are always hard, but the wins are so much sweeter. And I think being able to watch my friend Sherelle like walk down the aisle and meeting her life partner, it was really just like I said, as much as the losses suck, it's always great to see the people that persevered, and she's a great example of that. Like, I mean, a great turnaround. Obviously, she found her love for God, and and I think that's an important thing, So I'm happy for her, and I'm happy for Klaus as well. It was great to catch up with him. We obviously took a moment and to reflect about Cologne, who unfortunately he's no longer with us in this world. And yeah, it was just really good. The whole point of all this was, one, don't, especially for the guys that are in the military, make sure you reach out to somebody, man. Don't let you put yourself in that hole, that dark hole it's just hard to get out of, It's a hole that I'm very familiar with as well. Luckily I was able to get out of it, um, but talk to people, man. Reach out, man. Like even if it's just a little text message, it goes a long way, man, to hear somebody. And as a matter of fact, I can tell you, I ended up finding a number of someone that, I mean, big brother to me, like I mean, straight up big brother. And you don't know how uplifting it was to finally just not necessarily hear them, but just hear them respond through text. It just alleviated so much because I was always worried about this person, and to hear that he was doing well was really relieving. And then another person found me on Facebook, which that was, and funny enough, you're talking about big brother. This guy's like little brother to me, and yeah, it was good to hear him doing well as well. But yeah, man, always just like, especially, it's not an easy transition for if you're a military service member, that listens to this podcast, and which, by the way, I love you guys, but same thing, man. Don't think you're by yourself. Never think that you're by yourself. You're never by yourself. The brotherhood that is the military is very much still a thing, and always remember that, because at the end of the day, you're never going to be a nuisance. You're never going to be a disturbance. Like, and this goes to anybody that has ever served with me. Like, drop of a dime, I will respond. I will respond and be there for that person, to whatever capacity I can. And so, yeah, so never think that you're alone. And I think just in general, right? Like, I know there's other people that struggle with their own battles. Always know you're not alone. I think that's the important part. But it was really good to celebrate the marriage of my good friend Sherelle, and the wedding was beautiful. It was lots of fun. Like I said, it was great to catch up with her and Klaus, and yeah, it put a smile to my face to see everybody. So, and it's pushing me now. It is pushing me now because now I'm like, I gotta figure out some ways to go see some people, because I really would love to see some people that I haven't seen in, God, almost about to be 10 years. So yeah, I really want to see some people. So I'm gonna do my best to make that a goal. Maybe not this year, but next year, start making plans to go see people that I served with and catch up, man. Just that's the most important part, and see that they're doing well, and if they're not, be there for them. So, but yeah, and so and once again, if this was something that y'all needed to hear, just reach out to somebody, man. This is your sign. Go, that person you haven't heard from a long time, or you haven't talked to in a long time. Find them on, whether it's social media. I'm sure you guys are following each other on social media, and just tell them like, hey, what's up? Tell them like, hey, what's up, man? How you been? How's the family? Like that, it's gonna go a long, long way. Because it sucks when you lose somebody. It just does, especially someone that's been there through the rough times, and now they're not there with you, So, anyways, shout out to the Belly Up Podcast Network. Obviously, Insert Name FC was awarded the Podcast of the Year award for 2024. Thank you so much for everybody that has supported the podcast last year and given us a like, well, not like, a listen. It just shows how hard we've worked for this episode, for these podcasts, and yeah, thank you so much. But yeah, check out BellyUpSports. Check out the website BellyUpSports.com. Lots of articles constantly being written. A lot of the podcast shows, man, they have like these little blogs where you can read like a good summary of the episode and still watch the episode themselves. So check them out, man. Follow them on YouTube, BellyUpSports. Follow them on Instagram and Twitter at BellyUpSports. Lots of articles, not just from the podcasting sector, but also writers. Shout out to Eric Kratz, who did win Article of the Year. So shout out to him, man. Keep supporting BellyUpSports, because we're trying to grow things over there. Speaking of growing, check out GolzTV, man. GOZ.TV. You listen to Jose and me talk about it. I'm sure you guys love the episodes that Jose comes on. So just, check out his stuff, his work over there at GolzTV. It is an amazing streaming platform that is soccer content made in the US of A. Follow him on Instagram at GolzTV. Once again, GolzTV. And on the X at GolzTV, GolzTV. But check out Golz.tv. Check out that website. Go subscribe. It is free to subscribe right now. Go ahead and check out Unleashed with Eric Winalda. Go check it out, man. You're going to see some great stuff over there. And then, of course, shout out to Roosevelt Spencer. Speaking of somebody that I served with, Roosevelt Spencer and me, it's great that we're able to stay in touch with each other and always check up on each other. And, seeing him where he is at now he's a dad. When I say I'm happy when I see guys doing well, like Spencer is one of those guys that I am so happy to see him do well. And obviously I'm sure it's vice versa with me as well. So follow him on Instagram at that guy dope, especially if you guys need some beat works. If you need some beats, man, go hit him up. That guy dope. Take care of he's got a baby, man. Help him out. I love you, Spencer, man. We love him so much. He is the namesake for our Player of the Year award. So check him out. That guy at that guy dope on Instagram. Shoot him up a message that you need some beats done. If you're a aspiring artist, a YouTuber, you want a podcast, hit him up. He's going to give you some beats so you avoid that nasty copyright. So hit him up. He'll take great care of you like he always does with us. But with all that being said, man, thank you to everyone that's listened. Thank you for Jose for coming on. Catch us next week where we do have episode 3 of MLS Onside to recap, as well as amongst other things to talk about. So thank you so much for listening. Take care, guys.
Who is that guy?